Coming in from the West Asia conflict, however, President Trump has issued another warning to Tehran: seal the deal or face fresh strikes. Now, even as he signals progress and talks in a positive manner, President Trump, however, has warned that the ceasefire may not be extended. As far as the date of the ceasefire is concerned, it is expected to end on the 21st of this month. However, he has said, and keeping the threat of military action firmly on the table, in a remarks, President Trump has made it clear that pressure will only intensify if a deal with Iran is not reached.
If you don't have a deal by Wednesday when the ceasefire ends, will you extend the ceasefire or will you start attacks again?
Maybe I won't extend it.
Okay.
But the blockade is going to remain. But maybe I won't extend it. So you have a blockade, and unfortunately we'll have to start dropping bombs again.
Srinjoy, good morning. Well, seal the deal or face the consequences. Direct warning coming in from President Trump.
It's very classic Donald Trump here. Very big stick and small carrot. But this is what you would expect from the president. It's also something slightly unusual before a very important moment, the talks in Islamabad. Again, you would expect the American representatives to fly all the way from Washington to Islamabad, the Iranians to also reach there, and the talks to happen on Monday. So if the President of the United States is talking about dropping bombs on a Saturday, and you're going to have talks on Monday, one wonders whether there will be an impact on the talks, positive or negative, and how it will proceed, keeping in mind such issues are there on the table. So the Strait of Hormuz is open, says the president. The blockade on Iranian ports remains, and if the problems are not solved as he sees it, then the bombing of Iran begins. So very clear statements, a line in the sand, literally, by the president. Now the Iranians have denied all of those things.
Yes.
And we wait to see what happens on Monday or Tuesday.
Well, it remains to be seen because the place has been decided, but it is still not confirmed whether or not it will be Monday itself. When it comes to the delegation on both sides, on Iranian and the U.S. side would be reaching Islamabad for the second round of talks. There have been several negotiations, a lot of movement that seems to be happening behind the scenes. But however, President Trump is not denying the very factor as far as when it comes to the ceasefire is concerned. It's a very fragile ceasefire, remember. But will it be extended or will there be lasting peace? Because President Trump is now of the opinion that if Iran does not agree to the terms and conditions that has been set by the United States of America, then U.S. will not refrain when it comes to conducting its military strikes again. And this is something that the world definitely does not want. And however, Iran has also contradicted. They have put out this reciprocal measures threat as well to America. Despite when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz that has been reopened for commercial vessels, Iran is of the opinion that the U.S. naval blockade, that means that it is a very violation of the ceasefire. So it may shut the Strait of Hormuz again. Is that a possibility coming in from the Iranian side too, Srinjoy? Because if the military strikes resume, then the Strait of Hormuz will be closed again.
Yes, it's back to square one then, because then Iran will block the Strait of Hormuz. What Iran can also do, and it hasn't as yet, is actually hit a warship or a tanker or something at the mouth of the Hormuz Strait. And then if a tanker goes down right there, then all movement will be blocked. And that will be very difficult for actually everybody. Now, that is, of course, only after the bombs fall, as the president calls it. We don't know how it's going to end. We don't know how the talks are going to happen.
Yes.
But the president is making it very clear that the strait is open and the blockade is there. And if a situation is not arrived at, the bombs will fall.
Well, ceasefire continues to remain one of the contentious issues. I think we're going to listen once again, Srinjoy, to what President Trump has been saying, whether or not there will be an extension.
going to take the nuclear dust from Iran.
Yeah, if we didn't make a deal.
What's the timeline on
Well,
that?
I'm not going to give you that. Do you want me to give you the time and date and everything else?
Is it like you've been negotiating
If we
how long that
obviously, I'm not
process
going to
will
give
go
you the
on?
time other than if we sign the agreement, then I can give you time somewhere after the signing of the agreement.
And
We'll
will
go
it
in
involve
with
US
Iran.
military?
We'll go in with Iran and we will take it together and we will bring it back, 100% of it, back to the United States. If we don't do that, we will get it in a different form, in a much more unfriendly form.
And if that does not,
But in any event, we'll get it. But in any event, excuse me. But in any event, we'll get it. Go ahead.
If you don't have a deal by Wednesday when the ceasefire ends, will you extend the ceasefire or will
I
you
don't know.
start
Maybe
attacks
not.
again?
Maybe I won't extend it.
Okay.
But the blockade is going to remain. But maybe I won't extend it. So you have a blockade, and unfortunately, we'll have to start dropping bombs again. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. I think it's going to happen.
What about the U.S.?
Well, as far as the contradicting claims over the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, let's put that out in focus. Because on one side, President Trump has been claiming that it is open. He's been thanking Iran for the same. But Iran, however, has rejected the statement, saying that the President of the United States made 7 claims in 1 hour. All of the 7 claims, according to Tehran, are wrong. They are false. And Iran is of the opinion that they did not win the war with these lies, and they will certainly not get anywhere in the negotiations either. So with the continuous blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, will not remain open, and the passage of the Strait of Hormuz will be conducted based on the designated route, because despite that, when it comes to Iranian authorization, is still required for a clear passage. And this seems to be the Iranian point of view, that what we are now looking at as far as Iran is now concerned. Let's in the meantime shift focus and talk about when it comes to the claim and the counterclaim. This seems to be on part of the US and on part of Iran. So let's get you a basic understanding. President Trump has said that Iran has agreed to hand over its enriched uranium when it comes to Tehran, completely rejecting that, saying that there was never even a point that it was taken up for discussion, because there is no way that it will be handing over that so-called nuclear dust which President Trump has been claiming. Then in the meantime, let's talk about the other sticking points there, because this is something why the reason of the first round of talks failed, that Iran has agreed to suspend its nuclear program indefinitely. Iran says, when did we say that? Iran says that all 7 claims that have been made by President Trump is false. Then talk about the third claim. Strait of Hormuz blockade until a deal is reached as far as when it comes to the naval blockade of the US has been imposed. But Iran is of the opinion that Hormuz will not remain open if there is a blockade. So reciprocal measures is something that what Iran has been warning. Another claim that has been put up by President Trump, especially when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, and if Iran does not agree to a deal with the United States of America in the coming days when the ceasefire actually ends, then they are of the opinion that the military activity against Iran, the bombing, will then resume. Well, that seems to be the opinion that is now coming in from President Trump's side, while Iran has been threatening if that happens, then the Strait of Hormuz will be blocked again. President Trump, however, says that Tehran is ready to cooperate and has had enough. He's reiterated his claim that the United States will now work with Iran to remove its enriched uranium, dubbed the nuclear dust, in what has been described as a peaceful process, insisting that there is still no financial payment that would be made, despite reports suggesting otherwise, where President Trump has added that a broader agreement could be reached soon, with the US blockade on the Iranian shipping that remains in place until finalization. So no financial benefit, Trinjoy, is that seems to be a possibility, because what Iran was seeking, it was seeking compensation. It was seeking compensation from the aggressor. It was seeking compensation from the Gulf countries, and also in a way to monetize the Strait of Hormuz so that the money could be used, the revenue could be used when it comes to reparations.
Two completely different set of statements by two sides. And there's no meeting point here, if you've noticed. So how are the talks going to go on Monday? What is going to be the agenda for the talks on Monday? Who is going to say what? And how do you arrive at a conclusion? These are all very difficult questions that need to be answered. Last time, the Vice President of the United States flew all the way from Washington to Islamabad, and then after hours and hours of negotiations, came back with nothing. Now, are they going to say, we are going to extend the ceasefire? Are they going to say, we are going to have more talks? Are they going to say, we have reached a breakthrough in one or two areas, like, for instance, the Strait of Hormuz or the blockade or something on the other? We don't know. We will have to wait for Tuesday morning, because Islamabad seems to be another critical moment. Is there going to be peace or not?
Yes.
Well, we'll know after Islamabad.
Well, the world seems to be focusing on that very factor, because a welcome step, that is something that world leaders are also saying, extending their support on the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. And this is something that nobody wants as far as the extension of the conflict is concerned. With the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, that has also been announced. Thank you very much for the moment, Srinjoy, for joining us on the broadcast.